Hi, this is Miss Cairo. This is Math Lesson 3-8. And for this lesson, you need your activity book open to page 87. You also need your whiteboard and whiteboard materials and a pencil. And once you make your way over to page 87, I want you to take a look at the heading with me. The heading on this page says add, subtract, compare, and multiplying. So what we're doing this lesson is a lot of review. We're going to be taking fractions and doing a variety of operations. We're going to be working with what's called fraction boxes on page 87. And then just to preview, page 88 is word problems with mixed operations where you need to decide which operation you're going to use to correctly solve the word problem. So going back to page 87, we have, again, what is called fraction boxes, and they give one that's completed for us with the fractions 1/3 and 1/6 here. And essentially what these fraction boxes are is we take two fractions and we compare them, we add them, we subtract them, and we multiply them. So same two fractions, just four different operations for each one. And I like how they provided an example, but it's not the way that we will be solving. We learn to, for example, solve addition and subtraction fractions, stacking them. So they wrote it out vertically so we could kind of see the steps, but we're going to be doing it a little differently on our whiteboard. So for number one, we'll do this together in the video. It's comparing, adding, subtracting, and multiplying the two fractions 2/5 and 7/10. And I'm going to be showing you exactly how I want you to do it on your whiteboard because you're going to be doing that for number two on your own. And we're going to be working a lot with these fraction boxes in the coming lessons as like warm-ups and independent work. So please follow along and I'll show you the expectations on how to do this when you do them on your own. All right, so starting off with number one, again, 2/5 and 7/10, we're going to be comparing the two. And remember, going back to unit one, to compare two fractions, what the easiest way to do it is you need to find a common denominator, or in essence, equivalent fractions with common denominators. And then we'll be looking at the numerators and deciding which one's the bigger one based on their numerators. All right, so what I want you to do on your whiteboard is I want you to write out 2/5 and then stacked on the other side, 7/10. All right, and yours should look like mine. And what I'd like you to do is do those equal signs next to them. I noticed that 5 and 10 are our denominators here. Those are different denominators. I want them to be the same to easily compare them. So with our equal sign next to them, we're going to place two fraction bars and we're going to create two equivalent fractions with the same denominator. So I'm thinking to myself, with 5 and 10, what would be the lowest common denominator that we could use? And remember, we're going back to basically looking for multiples. So if I were thinking of this in my head, multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15. I'm going to stop there because I already see one. And the multiples of 10, the first few ones are 10, 20. I'm going to stop there. I wrote out one multiple twice already, and their common multiple is 10. 10 is the lowest one. That's the best one for us to work with. Again, there's other ones. 50 could also work, but we're trying to choose the smallest one to make it easier for ourselves. So go ahead and put 10 as our denominators there. And remember, in unit one, we learned that we need to find what the multiple is. And why that's important is because we're going to be multiplying the numerator by the same multiple. So I'm asking myself, for 2/5, how do I get from 2/5 to something tenths? Well, 5 times what equals 10? 2. So I'm going to write times 2. And remember, whatever we do to our denominator, we do to our numerator when finding equivalent fractions. So I'm also going to multiply this numerator times 2. And I'm left with 2 times 2, which gives us what as our numerator? 4. 2/5 is equal to 4/10. All right. And 7/10, I'm figuring out what 7/10 is equal to in terms of tenths. For some reason, some people get kind of tricked on this. Boys and girls, denominator is the same. So it's essentially multiplying by 1. 7/10 is equal to 7/10. I'm just going to rewrite it over here so that I have it nice and stacked and orderly. So times 1, if that helps you to write out that, go ahead and do that. Or if you just see it and you get it, just rewrite 7/10 over here. Now I have two equivalent fractions, same denominator, which makes it easy for me to compare because all I have to do is look at our numerators now. I'm looking at 4 and 7, and I'm going to circle the fraction that has the greater amount in terms of its numerator. So which numerator is bigger, 4 or 7? 7 is definitely bigger than 4, so therefore 7/10 is greater than 4/10. And what we're going to write in our fraction box into our book is I'm going to rewrite the two equivalent fractions that we use. We said that 2/5 was equal to 4/10, so rewrite out 4/10. And we said 7/10 is greater than 4/10, so I'm already going to put in my equivalent fraction. I'm going to have my comparison symbol. I'm going to have my comparison symbol open towards 7/10 and rewrite that out. 4/10 is greater than, oh my gosh, I'm tripping up. 4/10 is actually less than 7/10, or in other words, 7/10 is greater than 4/10, and those are two equivalent fractions. So therefore, 2/5 is less than 7/10. All right, moving on to the next one. The next operation that we're going to use is addition. And remember, with addition, we are stacking our two fractions. So I'm going to be rewriting it out on my whiteboard, just like we were doing with our comparison symbols, except I'm going to add in that addition symbol. 2/5 plus 7/10. Go ahead and write yours out like mine on your whiteboard. The great thing about using these fraction boxes is I already did most of the work. I already created the two equivalent fractions I need. So I'm going to do an equal sign, and I'm going to basically steal our work that we did for the comparing of these two fractions. I already know that 2/5 is equal to 4/10, and I already know that 7/10, of course, is equal to 7/10. Now I have two fractions with a common denominator or the same denominator in which I can now add. So remember, when you add, denominator stays the same. So I'm going to put my answer at the bottom and already put a fraction bar and 10 as my denominator. And then we're going to go back and add our numerators. 4 plus 7 gives us 11. 11/10 is our answer, but I do notice there is something strange about my answer in which I cannot keep it like this. What is wrong with keeping this fraction as my answer, 11/10? It is a improper fraction. Yep, it's greater than 1. And we know from previous lessons, anytime we come across an improper fraction as our answer, we have to turn it into a mixed number. Because in real life, if this was going along with a word problem, we would never say I have 11/10 or I walked 11/10 of a mile today. We would put it in mixed number form. So remember, turning an improper fraction to a mixed number, we use what operation? Division. Some of you could probably do this mentally. Some of you still need to write this out. So whichever way works best for you, go ahead and solve. What is 11/10 equal to in mixed number form? Did you say 1 and 1/10? Yep. 11/10 is equal to 1 and 1/10. So let's transfer our information into our fraction box. We said that 4/10 plus 7/10 is equal to 11/10, which is equal to 1 and 1/10. And why we're writing out all the steps is that this will be in your book for when you're completing this independently and you're feeling confused or lost. You can come back and look at these examples and it's all laid out for you. All right, and now let's look at the next operation. The next operation that we're going to use is subtraction. 2/5 and 7/10. I'm already looking. Oops, I shouldn't even be erasing my addition. Take a look before you erase yours. If you already did, that's fine. Take a look at mine if needed. I'm looking at my two equivalent fractions that I created with my comparison problem. And 2/5, if I'm already previewing 2/5 minus 7/10, an equivalent fraction form would be 4/10 minus 7/10. What's wrong with this subtraction sentence? 4/10 minus 7/10. With subtraction, the larger number needs to go first, or the larger needs to go on top. We cannot take 4, we cannot start with 4 and take 7 away from 4. 4 minus 7 is not 3. Nope, you can't have 4 apples and then drop 7 of them and ask how many do you have left. You have to have the larger number on top. So something to look out for with these fraction boxes is you need to figure out which fraction goes first. The order for subtraction really does matter. So basically, we're going to flip the two fractions. We're going to take the two fractions. That's why they use the word and there. You have to decide the order. I'm going to place 7/10 on top. That's the larger fraction, minus 2/5. Go ahead and write that on your whiteboard just like I did, stacked it nice and neat. We already know our equivalent fractions. 7/10 is equal to 7/10 minus 4/10. And now I have a subtraction problem with common denominators. Go ahead and solve. What's 7/10 minus 4/10? 3/10. Yep, 7 minus 4 is in fact 3. Denominator stays the same. 3/10. I'm going to rewrite it out, but in the correct order. I'm going to write that 7/10 minus 4/10 is equal to 3/10. Go ahead and write that into your chart. And then our last one, our last operation is our most current topic studied or concept studied. So I hope it's nice and fresh in your brain and easy peasy. Multiplying two fractions. We're not going to stack them. We're going to write them vertically. So on your whiteboard, let's write out 2/5 times 7/10. Doesn't matter the order for multiplication, we'll get the same answer. So go ahead and write yours out like mine. Remember, first step for solving, they both need to be in fraction form, and they are. Second step, you simplify if you can. Can we simplify a numerator and a denominator in this problem? Yes. Which two pairs do you see? 2 and 10 share a common factor. 2 is a factor of 10. So I can divide 2 by 2 and 10 by 2. So go ahead and write out those division sentences just like I did. Solve and cross out just like we've been doing. Hopefully you're working faster than I am. Any other simplifying we can do? Nope. 7 and 1 are my last two numerators. 7 and 1 don't share any common factors other than 1 with 5 and 5. So last step is multiply across. 1 times 7 will give you your numerator. 5 times 5 will give you your new denominator. Go ahead and solve. Did you get 7/25? Great. Is that answer in good form? It is. So now I'm going to write that out into our books. 2/5 times 7/10 is equal to 7/25. And my answer is reasonable. 7/25 is less than 2/5 and less than 7/5. My answer is reasonable. Are all our other answers reasonable? Looks good to me. And that is how you do a fraction box. We'll do number 2 later. We'll also do the puzzle penguin question in a little bit. And then again, these word problems, we're going to be using the cube strategy. It will be mostly review. Just the tricky part is figuring out which operation to use. All right, thanks for watching and following along so closely. That is the end of this video.